When the Lord said to me, your identity is teacher and leader, I now know my business is not my idol. God is my source. The Lord is my source. But anything that I do that aligns with what he says about me, teacher and leader, it's why I was great as a kindergarten teacher, great as a network marketer, now great as a coach, right? Because those are the two pieces of identity, the two areas which he's gifted me that keep me connected right to the main source.
Welcome back, crafted entrepreneurs. Today you're in for a very special treat because you get to meet my good friend. I've been begging her to come on the podcast for a long time now, and it's finally happening. I'm so pumped. And her name is Sarah Robbins. Some of you might know her as Sarah Rockin' Robbins. She is a wife to Phil and a mom to Gabriel and Judah. And she is the host of the Multiply Mastermind. It's sold out for the next year, but stay tuned because you might learn about how you could be involved in it next year. She has a best-selling book called Rock Your Network Marketing Business. And she's just doing great things in the world. Philanthropic. I can't even say that word.
Oh, Lord. Now we're both in trouble.
Phil. It's because I had Phil. And then now I'm like,
Phil ruined it.
You know what? She's doing great things in the world.
Philanthropically.
Yes. Okay. But you know what? You could tell she used to be a kindergarten teacher. And so now she's teaching me how to speak and read. It's awesome. You're a coach in the network marketing industry. And she's just an awesome, awesome Christian woman, just showing everybody how to infuse God into absolutely everything you do. So I know you're going to love today's show. Welcome, Sarah.
Hey, thank you. I'm so excited to be sitting with you today. How much fun are we going to have?
I know.
It's going to be awesome.
It's like, what are we not going to talk about?
That's true.
Today.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back to you being a kindergarten teacher because that was how many years ago?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I started my business 16 years ago, so started teaching about 20 years ago.
Wow. And what made you want to be a kindergarten teacher?
I love teaching. I literally, I'd line up all my dolls, play school. And I mean, to this day, I'm still a teacher. I say, you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher. Yep. It's there. It's like, it's always in me.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I see you doing that all the time, especially when it comes to social media.
Yes.
You spoke at my mastermind about that. The way that you are able to spoon feed information, break it down into methods that people can follow on a daily basis. It's a gift.
Yeah.
Most people don't have that. I'm like, just post. Just get it done.
It's my joy. The simple, the step by step. That's my joy. But also too, seeing success and luck in other people. Like that is my passion. That's why I do what I do.
You built $1 billion sales team.
Yeah.
Most people can't say that.
Yeah. It's a unicorn. I always say we did in 5 years what takes most people 50 years to do. And now I get to teach other people how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And what I love about you is that you're not still using yesterday's approach.
Yeah.
You're constantly going, okay, what's the next best thing for not only your team, but for the whole world to be successful?
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've put into play to always be at that cutting edge in your industry?
I think two things to be relevant is number one, knowing the latest up-to-date stuff for social media strategy. I'll have people coming in and they're like, well, so-and-so coached me to do this. And I'm like, and you wonder why nobody's engaging with your content. So it's teaching people how to remain relevant on social media with posts that actually perform. They have to perform well with your audience and the algorithm. So meaning if people aren't liking your content, the first place we go to is, do they even like it? Are you adding value to people's lives? Are you making their lives easier or better today? Or are you checking off your box? I posted about my business, right?
Yes.
So it's posts that perform with your audience, but also too in the algorithm, it's changing all the time. So understanding what's actually working today, that's a piece. And then giving people the step-by-steps, the systems that they need to succeed.
Can you tell how she built $1 billion sales team right there? Just the passion and just breaking it down.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people get into network marketing and they have big hopes, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the next millionaire. And then the first sign of adversity hits. The first person tells them no. Somebody in their family tells them they're crazy and they've ghosted you. They're gone. And I'm sure you experienced that, but your mom was your upline.
Yes.
Right. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that came
cool
with some
and humbling
challenges
all at the same time.
But so you were able to get the first no, get the first bad reaction and push through. What do you say for people right now in this day and age? I mean, you can't build a successful business and stay quiet.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to be public, with what you have going on. So how do they protect themselves from that rejection that they might experience?
I think it's reframing personal rejection to it's just somebody's personal preference. It's not about me. It's my job to share. It's their job to decide. And I remember, by the way, approaching somebody for the first time at a cosmetics counter, and I'm like, surely she'll be interested in what I do. I sell skincare, and my hands are shaking and my knees are knocking. And for the first time in my life, I literally saw stars. And I did the network marketing, the verbal vomit all over. I run back to my car and cry. I call my mom, who's my upline, and I'm like, do I go back there or, get out of here? She's like, get out of there. And I was like, great. So I did. And I did the pedal to the metal, like the ugly cry the whole way home, saying, how would I be successful in a business of networking if I'm afraid to talk to people? And so from that moment, I put more time into personal development than I did all of the professional growth. Like we're so focused on sales and systems and all the things, but it's like, success is what's in between the ears. Yep. It's like, what do I actually think about myself? What do I think about success? What do I think about the business or model that I've chosen? And really chose like that was my year of growth. And that was the thing that helped me to get past that personal rejection piece. Mm-hmm. I tell my team now, I'm like, you're like a waiter or waitress pouring a cup of coffee. Some say yes, some say no. When somebody says no, the waitress doesn't stop pouring and start crying. She keeps doing her job. She keeps sharing. It's your job to share. It's their job to decide. If I said to you, you want to be a kindergarten teacher? I've got a job. It starts tomorrow.
Absolutely not.
You're not rejecting me. You're just simply saying that's not for me. You probably think a lot of your kids' teachers, and you're probably like, okay, this is a great profession, like value people who do it, but it's just simply not for me. So we really have to reframe the way that we look at rejection.
Okay, that is so good. I love how, you break it down that year you did that personal development. How do we as Christians focus on our personal development, right? But not get into the stuff? Because I think what happens a lot of time, and I'm not just saying in network marketing, it could be in any industry.
Yes.
It's you become the most important thing instead of God being the most important thing. And it's like it's kind of scary because I know for me, it led me down a path of like thinking like I was my own God. Like I could really create anything I wanted without being with God.
Yeah.
And led me into a lot of dark stuff. So for that person that wants to get better, they want to grow every single day. What does that look like as a Christian?
Yeah. It's knowing your identity. It's your identity, who you are in Christ. And I did actually this study. It was with Jamie Winship, and it's really getting to know and hear God's voice and understanding your identity. And it's like, Lord, what do you say about me? Who do you call me? And I think it's such and such, network marketing consultant, right? Like that can be what comes in our brain. And our identity gets so wrapped up in the company, the product, the sales, that thing, or even the titles and the achievements.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when the Lord said to me, your identity is teacher and leader, I now know my business is not my idol. God is my source. The Lord is my source. But anything that I do that aligns with what he says about me, teacher and leader, it's why I was great as a kindergarten teacher, great as a network marketer, now great as a coach, right? Because those are the two pieces of identity, the two areas which he's gifted me that keep me connected, right, to the main source. That my source and supply is not my network marketing business. Look, when I was a teacher back in the recession of 2008, I was about to lose my job. Teaching tenure trumped performance every day. I was the most requested teacher in the building. Was about to lose that job. Started praying for opportunity. Then comes direct sales. And I was like, I knew nothing about it except for the fact that I said I would never do it. So when I get to this place now today, I'm like, I can look back and say, that was only God. A formerly shy kindergarten teacher in her 20s. I had no network. My friends were young and broke like me. Like, how in the heck did I end up here, right? And so I can look at times now, even today, where I'm just like, if it's not this, God has something else. And it keeps me connected to the source. And I think the other thing is too, is really just taking that time that we spend with him and that we hear from him. And I think we make things like prayer a lot harder than what it is. It's like a conversation, right? So we say conversation is really the currency of relationships. We're friends because we talk. We go on our walk-in talks, do all the things. That's how we get to know each other, right? And it's like, how do we get to know the character and nature of God? It's spending time with him, right? I'll say to my kids at night when we pray, they don't really know like how to pray, but I'll say to Gabriel, he's 7. I'll say, what do you want to say to God tonight? What do you want to say to Jesus? And he'll just kind of sit and say, I'll say, he wants to hear your voice. What do you want to say? And it's like, then he'll go, Jesus, you know, it's like, and I want to get him in the habit of having that conversation all the time and hearing.
Oh my gosh. So we tend to overcomplicate a lot of simple things.
Yeah.
And one of the most complicated, I think, things right now in today's business economy is people talk about, you know, you got to niche down. And it's like, even in network marketing, it's like, well, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
So what do you say to that person? Because I want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to the girl at the makeup counter, the guy down the street, my neighbor. Like, what do you say to that person?
Yeah. I think it's so important because at the end of the day, if we're thinking about adding value to people's lives, we got to know who's the who. Who are we actually talking to? Great example would be, you know, people in our company or in our coaching programs, and they're like, well, I want to create content to attract more men. And I'm like, let's look at your insights tab and see who's following you on social media. It's not to say that we don't love them and we don't appreciate them, but at the end of the day, when I look at my insights, over 85% of my followers are women in a certain age bracket. And I'm going, okay, so I know who's the who. And, you know, they're mothers who, or they're women who, right? So when I'm creating my content that day, I know who it is that I'm serving. So I can answer the question each day when I pause before I post and say, how am I making her life easier or better today? Instead of like with him, what's in it for me? I'm thinking tiny, their interests, not yours, right? Like, so what can I do to actually add value to that person's life today? And that was literally, no joke, the secret sauce for how we grew a social media following of over 500,000 people collectively, most of them on a Facebook business page, because I showed up instead of selling to people, I served. That was it. I served.
I've never heard tiny before.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just threw that in there.
You're going to get some bums from this kindergarten teacher.
I'm obsessed. Their interest, not yours.
Yes.
But I think that's a good point, because when it goes back to how do we overcomplicate things, it's when we make it about us.
That's it.
It's when we are so focused on our dreams and goals and we forget about helping other people reach their dreams and goals. I remember when I became a millionaire in my company, or my former company, and I was like, oh, like, it's really true. If you just help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want. You know, it's a byproduct of helping a lot of people. And when you keep that the main focus, it's easy to make content for that who.
Yeah, that's so good. I was actually, you know, in that place, again, talking about like hearing and listening to God. We can make all of these plans, right? Many are the plans, right? But it is the Lord who establishes them. So I remember sitting in the beginning of the year and I was like, I've hit all these ranks. It's not about earning more, doing more, achieving more. And I was asking the Lord, I was like, so what is my why? And he gave me one word, which was legacy. And what did that mean? It's bringing other people to the places that they've been longing and dreaming to go. And that's it. My gifts aren't just meant for me or even meant for my team. Like, you know, being in this industry, right? Like, we can get in such a scarce place of like holding all of the information we have in.
Yes.
When I'm like, there's so many other people, so many other people's blessings are tied to our obedience. When we unlock that thing and go, man, I'm actually like, you know, talented in teaching this thing. I'm going to go and I'm going to share it with other people, which is so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. I love like your heart of service. And I think that that's what I want people to take away right now. Like, it's contagious. Just like let it rub off on you a little bit. But on that note, you're an incredible leader. That's what God showed you as your identity, right? And there's two people we want to lead. First, the person we want to lead ourselves.
Yes.
Right? And then we want to lead that next person
Yes.
that wants it, that's hungry. What have you done to really develop your leadership?
Invested in leadership. Listen, you and I both, we practice what we preach. We lead the mastermind, but we've been in the mastermind. We've invested time and money to be a student of the thing that we wanted to become excellent in. So many people want to take the shortcut, right? And it's like, I want the revival without putting in the results. Like I want the thing, I want the breakthrough without having to actually break through, like go through the trenches and build. So for me, it's hiring coaches, getting into memberships and masterminds myself. When I was, for me, just building my business, it's like I was going to the convention. I was there traveling, going, and still to this day, 16 years later, like traveling, going.
You just got back from one.
Yes, showing up and doing the thing. That's been the biggest thing. It's like being poured into by the right people, developing the relationships, and being in the right rooms.
Okay, what has been the hardest thing? Maybe a crisis or something you're willing to share with people listening in right now when it comes to leadership?
Oh, man. Okay, I've got a great one. I had a season that lasted quite a while that was so hard that I wouldn't have been able to in the past tell you the story, even without crying. But it's been to a place now where I've like had such healing, but also breakthrough too. And it's those tough times that actually create character and who we are. So I had a time in leadership where leaders who sat on stage that I was their mentor, they learned everything they knew from our coaching and all of the things, decide to just one day turn on me. I had no idea why. Even still to this day, no idea why. Got a letter. We're going to go off and do our own thing. We're going to plan calls at the same time as yours, all these things. I remember I was so upset. My husband literally sold my phone and computer and he goes, "You will not react to this. You will not respond to this. We will stay true to character no matter what. Until you can calm down, you're not getting any of these things back." And I was like, okay,
I love him. Wow. Chase needs to learn that move.
No joke. He hid them. So, which was good because in that moment, I could have done something reactionary.
Yep.
I could have broken relationships. I could have gotten kicked out of my company. I could have maybe quit, right? That's it. I don't need this. I quit. And too often we make these emotional decisions. And so kind of, there goes a series of time. And I start to learn the power of forgiveness. I was like, what do you do when somebody comes against you? And this is like something you didn't ask for, you didn't participate in, you don't even deserve. And I remember hearing Joyce Meyer, and she was like, you have to freely forgive. But when the feelings don't go away, that's where you go to God and say, God, I forgive them, but you have to take away the hurt. And it was like this process of like forgiveness. The other thing was staying true to character no matter what. I was kind to these people. And every instance, every occasion, came up to a time that we were supposed to go to a company-sponsored trip to Bora Bora, and I didn't want to go. Who doesn't want to go to Bora Bora? But I was like, I had to face these people in a small group setting. My sister called me and she said, Sarah, I really believe that you're supposed to go and God's going to bless that and honor that. She said, I believe there's going to be healing, but I also believe that he's going to bless you on this trip. And she's like, just go. And I was like, okay, fine. So I go on the trip, and let me just say, it was the craziest thing. A bunch of these leaders go on this. I was like, this is like a Bible story. They go on this beautiful yacht to go fishing, catch nothing. Okay. My husband goes with another couple on this rickety boat, and they literally catch enough fish to feed the entire Four Seasons resort. No exaggeration. Gosh. We had fish favor, okay? So they bring all this fish back. They make a dinner literally for the entire place. All the staff had fish to go home with. Aww. And one by one, these couples who had turned against us years later came up to us and they said, one by one on their own, we're sorry. And the thing that they said over and over again was, it was your character. You stayed true to character no matter what. And we were wrong. They all invited us, each one, to speak at their team retreats. I cleared my whole calendar to go. But here's the cool part. God not only restored, right? So like restoration, reconciliation comes when sometimes it's more important to admit that you're wrong, right? Than having to be right. So there was that restoration. But then also redemption. It's where God takes something old and does something new. So on that trip, it's so funny. I had no business talking about my business, didn't want to talk about it at all. My husband was being silly in the pool. This woman hears him and comes over and they're talking. It was she and her husband there on a trip. she later tells the story. She said, it drove us crazy. You would not tell us what you did. So she goes,
you're probably just asking them everything about their lives.
Yes. I knew about her. She was a nutritionist. She was former Mrs. Hawaii. They were now in the military. They moved 7 times, all these things. And she's like, and we just thought you like won the lottery and were here with all your friends, because they were trying to assess the situation of this like incentive trip, right? So she goes up to the room, goes on my social media, and she's like, this is what you do. I want to join you. So she ended up being one of the top 3 leaders on our team, but also a best friend of mine who has like had my back, been there for me all the time throughout the years, which again, it's like when we're willing to show up, that's when restoration can happen, right? And when reconciliation can happen, when we're willing to say, no matter what, I'm going to stay true to my character in every single situation. I don't have to defend. I don't have to, be on the defense. Like, I just kept everything the same. Okay. You want to do a call at the same time as mine? My call's staying Sunday nights at 9 p.m. And I did,
not reactionary.
That's it. And God blessed it, which was so powerful.
Wow. How long did it take?
Probably years. I mean, honestly.
I think that that's so important to point out, though, because people hear stories like this and they're like, it's going to happen tomorrow. Like restoration's going to happen tomorrow. And it's like, maybe you're going to be in a season of, I was just studying Elijah.
Yes.
I think it's called Cherith is the place he was in. And it's like this season where God's refining you. He's taken out all the impurities. I mean, how hard was it to stay true to character?
Yeah.
When I'm sure things were being said, you did it though.
Yeah.
And you were faithful.
Yeah.
And when you show God, it's like your little mustard seed.
Yes.
When you're faithful with that, then it's like that's when things start to really move.
And I want to say something about that mustard seed. Sometimes we think we have to have this mountaintop faith, don't we?
Yes.
Like we get hard on ourselves, where it's like in that season, I felt so broken. And I'm like, why can't I believe up here? God actually never called us to mountaintop faith. He said, if you have faith the grain of a mustard seed, it will move a mountain. So trusting God is actually the seed of faith that can move the mountain. The other thing is sometimes we feel like I was on the mountain then and now I'm in the valley. And it's like, I learned in that season, it's like God saw those mountains I thought were mountains. Like that was my best moment. Now I'm in the valley. It was a hill. You know what I'm saying? And he's like,
from where you're going.
Yes. So much more in store for you. And he's not always as concerned with the situation as he is in using the situation to change our character, but also to bring us into a closer walk with him. And that's what, all of those things we've talked on our walks about, all of the things that we've walked through and journeyed through, but that's what makes us great leaders too.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. And then ultimately God is your CEO, guiding you. He's the ultimate leader.
Yes.
And I think that when people experience adversity and people say to trust God, it's like a concept that people are like, but what do you mean? Because we're such practical people. We want, well, what's step 1 of trusting God? What's step 2? Like, what would you say?
I just talked to somebody about this the other day. So my son had this kind of just ongoing health challenge that was something that the doctor said, it's not going to go away. There was nothing I could do. And it just felt so out of my control. And I was with a group of girlfriends who I had been praying with every week. And we were going around the table and we said, at the end of this journey of 1 year together, what do we appreciate about one another? And they said to me, Sarah, it was the fact that you never stopped trusting God. So it's like, what was trust? In the midst of every circumstance, I was still willing to show up and say, God, you're still good. And God, you're still able. And God, you're still faithful. And I felt like I was the person who was going up for the 50th time at the altar call, and I'm repeating myself with the same prayer over and over. Would you pray for my son? Would you pray for my son? Would you pray for my son? And it's like, never once did I stop asking for that prayer, because I continued to trust, you know what? He is faithful. He is able. He is good no matter what. But I had to sink myself into that decision. And oftentimes that's where I feel like people fall away from faith. If something happens and they're like, God, you're no longer good. But then what, right? What hope do I have? What hope does my son have, right? And so they said it was just the fact, because they said, we admire your faith. I was like, faith? That's the weakest I've ever felt, ever, as a mother, as a leader, because it was out of my control. And they said, the fact that you kept showing up and you kept asking for prayer and you never turned your back on God, you continued to believe that God was able, he is good, that's trust. And again, that's the seed of faith. That is the amount of faith that we're called to actually move the mountain.
My goodness. She needs a church. What do you guys think? So I want to talk about this seed.
Yes.
Okay. Because there might be some newbies listening in that are like, ooh, wait.
Yes.
Okay. Because we're about to get deep right here.
Okay.
Because, we talk about seeds of faith and then there's sowing seeds.
Yes.
Right. And I want to hear from you just a biblical perspective when it comes to creating wealth.
Yeah.
Right. And we're talking about sowing seeds. Like, where do you sow your seeds to reap a harvest?
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. We don't give to get, but it is a biblical principle. It is a spiritual principle that we can actually stand on when we are sowers, when we are givers. So my husband and I have always just held our hands like this, right? Open. We've had open hands with everything that we've been given, that we've been trusted with, because we realize that everything is from God. It's for God, and it's going to be returned to God at the end of the day. So like in the beginning, what we would do is we always set goals, and we do giving goals every month. So where some people tithe and they'll give to their local church or whatever the case may be, every month along with doing that and we actually have giving goals. Like we're like, let's see if we can outgive, what we did last month. And then all the places we want to give, we'll set goals for that too. And basically it's the things that we're praying for. So we're able to say, like, Lord, as we're sowing the seeds, here's the thing that we're standing on for our family. Gabriel's healing, growth in these areas, our business, whatever it is. And we write them down just as kind of laying our requests before the Lord. And we're giving and we're sowing and we're speaking and we're planting those seeds of faith. And it was so interesting because it was like, as our income grew, so did the impact that we were able to have on other people's lives. In the beginning, it was, let's send a mom of 5. She was a single mom, send her kids to fine art camp, Then it was, okay, we know somebody who needs a handicap ramp built, and my husband was able to go and do that. And then it was, okay, now we partner with Angel House and we build these orphanages overseas, built the first 100-child home. And eventually we were able to sow seeds into the lives of strangers. We actually were renting out our house to this family, and the husband came down with a terrible illness, and basically he knew he was going to die. And so they were renting our house. This is when we moved from one place to the next, when we had first started our business, and we didn't have all the money in the world. But it's when the downturn of the economy, where we're, basically upside down in the house, people kept telling us foreclose on the house. And we didn't. We were faithful. We kept paying, paid off the house. One day, it was right around the Christmas season, I took a walk. My husband took another walk. And I felt the Lord putting on my heart, gift these people the home. I'm like, say what? I'm like, who said that? Like, let's test the spirit here.
You're like, are you sure?
Like, I don't know. And my husband was taking a walk too, his time with God. And he was like, I got to talk to you about something. I was like, me too. And we both came together and we're like, we have to gift him the house.
Oh my gosh.
So we made that phone call, on Christmas. And here's the thing, I think, again, we're sitting with hands open. We can hold on so tightly to the things. But the thing that I will tell you is God is a God of multiplication. When you think about the enemy of our souls, right? What is he after? It's always division, to divide. And so when I can open up my hands and say, it's not just for me, it's for other people, that's when we've seen like all of our needs met. That's when we've seen like God shows up in such a magnificent way because he can trust us. It's like, I'll give your listeners something to write down and to even Google and search the parable of the talents.
Oh, yes.
That's a good one that they can go and read and learn more about. But basically, they were all given different talents, right? And they were trusted to do something with it. One person buried them and was like, oh, I'm going to hold tightly onto that thing. And 2 actually took it, right? And they multiplied. Now they were given a different amount of talents. The amount that they walked away with were different. But what did the Lord say to the 2? He said, well done, good and faithful servant. So what did he call them? A servant. We think the highest form, right? The highest form of flattery is being the leader, being the this, being the that, like, the XYZ person on stage. But the Lord recognized them as being a good and faithful servant. So it's like when we're willing to serve and sow in the lives of people, our time, our talent, our tithe, that's where God takes it and he multiplies it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I have So many follow-up questions here. Hold on, because I feel like I'm at church, and I know that Mark is going through a whole thing on multiplication right now. That's been so good. I'm going to have Rochelle on the podcast later today. We're going to talk about this, but people will ask me all the time, okay, but what do you mean by tithe? Like, okay, yes, I have to give, but do I really have to give 10%? And who does the 10% have to go to? And people they start to complicate this. What does that look like for you? Is it always confirmation with Phil? Like that walk? Or would you have said, hey, Phil didn't hear from God, but I heard I'm going to give that house. Would you have done it anyway?
Well, you got to be in alignment. You got to be in unity with one another for sure. That's the thing. But, for us, and again, you'll talk to Pastor Mark and Rochelle about, really the spiritual principle of giving. For us, it's always tithing to the church. So giving that 10%, but then also looking at too is what are some additional ways that we're looking to give? So sometimes it's a giving goal that our school has, Sweet School that my kids go to, that they're always in need of extra resources, right? It might be building one of the angel houses, whatever the case may be. But it's really just praying about, Lord, who are we to bless? And that's usually over and above, the tithe.
Okay, I love that. And you guys have to be in alignment.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about marriage.
Yeah,
because
talk about it.
Well, because you guys are so cute.
19 years, 20 next year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What are you guys going to do?
I don't know.
You guys have date nights every Friday. You're so cute.
I know.
And going on trips.
It's true. We dress up every Friday. Robbins Rock Night was our little hashtag we had forevermore, because it's just a fun night to dress up, to connect, all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I feel like this 20th anniversary,
we got to do something fun.
It has to be big.
Yeah, we got to do something fun. We did a 10-year vow renewal in our backyard, and it was so fun, so beautiful. It's like, is that 20 or 25? Maybe it's a cool trip.
Yeah, because now your backyard is different.
Yeah, right. It's true.
It's the ocean.
It's true. It's the ocean.
That might be cool.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So 20 years married.
20 years.
Most people, 50% divorce rate. I think it's getting higher.
Yeah, especially where we live.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people right now who they're ambitious, they're women, they have big goals, and their husband is not necessarily on the same page? Yeah. What do you want to say to them?
Yeah. Not to sacrifice your why in pursuit of it. I think, time is the currency of relationship. How do people know we love them? It's the time we spend with them. The same is true with parenting as well, where, again, we can make our business our idol. And so often when I'm coaching women, I'm like, what is your why? And it's always family at the center when they start.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to retire my husband, or, more time with my kids, whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden they're hustling, they're grinding, and look, all of the relationships are at the wayside. So it's making time for the thing that is most valuable to us, which are those relationships, our marriage, our children, etc. So for me, I actually have hours of operation. 3:30 comes, the phone is off. Nothing in my business is an emergency. When those little feet walk in the door, I'm mom. That's it. Yeah. The phone is off. Nothing is an emergency. And I'm focused on pouring into the kids. And just like I do the Friday night date nights with my husband, I also have date nights with my kids. Now, my 3-year-old is still a little too young to appreciate it. But my 7-year-old, we're doing a little bowling night tonight. And I'll ask him, what do you want to do? Sometimes he wants to go have Shirley Temples at a fancy hotel, and we'll just go in and get a Shirley Temple and talk. It's the only time he gets to have red food, dye, and sugar, by the way. But, it's spending the time and investing in those relationships. And those will be, isn't that the thing that makes you wealthy at the end of the day?
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
So I think that's a really good point, because people, they want their husband to change. They want their husband to get on board with whatever goal it is that they have. Well, he's not going to get on board if you're just talking at him.
That's
and
right.
just telling him what you're going to do.
That's right.
It's like, okay, it's going on the date night. It's going on the walks. It's spending that time, just like you have to spend that time with God.
Yeah.
And the more you prefer one another.
That's right.
What starts to happen? Both of you guys have your hearts softened towards each other.
Yep.
And maybe you become a little, more compromising, and like it doesn't have to be so rigid on how you hit your goal, and he starts to accept.
Yes.
We can have a different lifestyle.
Yes.
Okay.
True.
So have you and Phil gotten any flack or anything for just being who you are?
Oh my gosh. Our old neighbors used to call him Makeup Boy. And I said, you can call him Makeup Boy all you want as we head over to the bank. Like, you know, it's like the funniest thing because it was like skincare, direct sales, all the things, you know.
So they were like doing like a Mary Kay dig.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And so now when people ask Phil what he does, because we have hundreds of thousands of mainly women on our team.
Yeah.
He goes, I manage female emotions. That's it. Like, he's like, there's no other. And then it gets people to ask and they're actually intrigued, but for sure. And, you know, it's like you look and it's like people who have built a traditional business in a different way. It's just a different understanding. That's all. You know, it's a different understanding.
And like for him, I mean, obviously I know he's not on the show, but like if you could speak for him a little bit, how has he manage to still keep God at the center of things, not let that makeup boy comment get to his ego and affect him from doing what you guys are doing is kingdom work. I mean, you're building the kingdom.
Whenever something like that comes our way, we look and we just kind of laugh and we're like, well, like even team stuff, you know, they're feeding a lot of orphans, like they're blessing a lot of people. At the end of the day, like it doesn't matter. You know, we just kind of keep a healthy perspective of, are our primary relationships healthy? And if that answer is yes at the end of the day, that is all that matters.
Did you guys have mentors in your life that were helping you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We've had and continue to have incredible mentors, but it's a choice to submit to leadership, right? Mm-hmm. Because we can get to an unhealthy place where we think, well, I'm the leader and I know everything, but we have leaders who we submit to that we're learning from in business, in faith, in finances, and marriage, parenting, every single area of our life. He's actually starting a men's mastermind to pour into men in that area.
Oh, I love that.
Because at the end of the day, it's like we can get prideful and think we know it all, but you have to, especially when you're pouring into people. It's like the question is, who's pouring into you?
Yes.
Otherwise, we start to feel like, you know, we're hollow, we're fake, we're starving, right? And it's like mentorship is so incredibly important.
So if you had to start over $0 tomorrow, what would you do?
I would first and foremost, believe it or not, start again in a direct selling company. The reason why I would do it is so I'd have some upfront cash to do all of the other things, to be able to just invest and do. Like for me, I look and I'm like, what other person? I was in my 20s with no investment, right? No time because I worked full time.
Yeah.
No money. So that would be what I would do, but I would do it differently. I would really focus on learning the profession, you know, working hard, all of the things, like shorten my learning curve a little bit and then take that money and invest. I had great mentors, by the way, who said in the beginning, they said, always live on 20% of what you make.
I wish somebody would have told me that.
Come on now, right? I mean, literally live on 20% of what you make, save well, invest well. So again, it's like those lessons learned. It's like, these are the things that you take and do differently.
Wow. Okay. I love that. Yeah. I was more in the company where we just bought everything. We spent every dime that came on the team, on everything.
Yes.
Just to, you know, get more people.
Yeah. That's it.
And that's kind of, I think, what sometimes starts to happen in that culture is like, oh, as soon as you start making money, you got to show people you're making money.
But you know what? Just success in general, though. Like I even said this too. I said, I want to teach our boys that success sometimes is for a season. And no matter what you do, because we see like what's happening in the economy, what is happening with inflation, all of these things. I'm like, teach them to save well, to invest well. Like, and those are great seasons, but it's like, if you hit that moment where you feel like you're in the valley, like you've got some wisdom and you've got the finances to be able to carry you through.
Yes. Yeah. We want everybody listening in to get on that level. Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your, you know, you still have your network marketing team that's killing it, doing great, but you've also started, you know, a coaching. You have not only your membership, but you also have a mastermind.
Yeah.
So you're helping people become powerful network marketers and also helping other people grow their leadership. And what has been the best part of, you know, pivoting into that?
For me, it's reaching people beyond my own team. And it's so interesting. I was talking to somebody about this earlier. I was like, we are the only profession where it's like, for example, if my kid wanted to be a star player, and could have trained with some of the greats, we'd like hire that person to train them. We're the only profession where it's such scarce thinking of like, I don't want to put my team in front of the most successful person because what if? Yeah. I'm like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I haven't recruited one person, but I've created a culture of excellence where it's like there's boundaries and we're all there for one purpose. It's to grow our business, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like for me to be able to take the skill set of like somebody who's in the trenches, building, still as a top team builder, still as somebody who's recruiting and doing the thing and teaching people how with real strategy, like not training that's on trial, like some sort of theory of like, this is what I heard has worked for somebody. Like that's my joy, is taking the simple systems and then seeing it unlock in other people too. And
it's all these different, genres of network marketing too, which makes it's like, so cool. Okay, it works for everybody.
Yes, that's it. And we don't have to wonder what are other people doing because we're all there for the same purpose, and that's to grow. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where do you see yourself in the next, year?
Helping more people. I would absolutely love to just continue to multiply our inner circle where we do our coaching. That to me, like I love the social media strategy, like the systems, the sales training. That to me is a big piece. Continuing to pour into our network marketing team. I see so many leaders who just kind of step out of that role and they lose that connection with their team. And I always say, I am unwilling to train on things that I am not doing. So it's like a program can run out. It's like, oh, we get a pencil for a prize. Not really, but I'm like, I will run for the pencil and get the prize. Why? Because I lead from the front and lead by example. And then the biggest thing is for Phil and I is we really want to look at, okay, what are the things that we can put in place for our boys, right? Because now they have a coach. I have a coaching business. Yeah. That's dependent on me, a personality.
Right.
We have a skincare business. Well, I have two, vibrant boys who love all the boy things. And so we're looking and we're like, what are we going to do with them, for them, alongside of them to really help to set them up to learn how to be great with people, hard workers, to put their hands to something to see it succeed. So that's really going to be a big piece of like what we focus in on. And the next season too, again, of course, growing in family, growing in faith as well.
I love that. Ooh, I'm excited to see what you guys come up with for the boys.
I know. Maybe I'll be picking your brains.
Oh yeah, it's dream time. We got to go to the montage and do another spa day.
Let's do it, girl. I love it.
So let's leave everybody with one last branding tip.
Okay. Ooh, this is good. I would say, you know what? No matter what company or industry, et cetera, it's brand you and not the company, because it needs to be able to grow with you and go with you. And that's really how you multiply. I love training people how to take their specialized area of knowledge, whatever it is. For me, it's network marketing, right?
Right.
And to take that talent, multiply it, but also monetize it. It's the thing that you may not even think is something that you could market or monetize, but everybody else is like, man, you're good at that, So it's really thinking about what is that thing? What is the value that I can add to other people's lives, and taking that and stepping into that in this next season. I know you've done that too. Just really, you've empowered people so beautifully, Cayla. I loved speaking at your mastermind, seeing how you pour into women and helping them take that thing and actually turn it into a business idea that not only changes their families' lives, but the lives of so many people too. So you're doing it, girl, and I'm so proud of you.
Aw, thank you.
Yes, I love you.
So where can everybody find you?
Yes, so find me on social media, Sarah Robbins, spelled the right way, Sarah with an H, Robbins, 2 B's. And that's my website too, sarahrobbins.com.
Spelled the right way.
Spelled the right way, the old-fashioned way.
Well, I think we have to have a part 2 because there's so much more that we could talk about. But thank you so much for being on and just sharing all your wisdom. I loved, you took me to church.
Yes, let's go.
We had a good time today. Tthank you.
All right, thank you.